The greatest enemy lies within, cloaked in the guise of familiar comfort. Recognition begins when the soul dares to confront its own shadows. An enemy often wears the face of our own fears. The secret to recognizing an enemy is to understand your own illusions. In the mirror of the soul, enemies reveal themselves as reflections of our own failings. True enemies are rarely external. They are the fears we refuse to face. The most hidden enemy is the one we carry inside, unnoticed. To see your enemy, first learn to see your own blind spots. Understanding your enemy requires a clear view of your own darkness. Enemies are teachers in disguise, guiding us towards self-awareness. The first secret is to distinguish between the enemy and the fear that clouds your vision. Every enemy is a fragment of your own unresolved conflicts. The key to recognizing enemies is to cultivate inner peace. Your true enemy is often the part of you that you deny. The hidden enemy whispers in the silence of your doubts. The greatest revelation is to see your enemy as a mirror of your own struggles. Recognize the enemy by observing where your energy is drained. Enemies thrive in the shadows of unexamined emotions. The secret lies in discerning between the surface conflict and the deeper battle within. An enemy's true nature is revealed when you stop projecting your fears onto others. The journey to recognize your enemy begins with honest self-reflection. The invisible enemy is often the one we refuse to acknowledge. Understanding your enemy requires courage to face your own imperfections. The most insidious enemies are those we believe are outside ourselves. The secret is to recognize the enemy's voice within your own mind. Enemies are often the guardians of our growth if we learn to see them rightly. The greatest insight comes when you realize your enemy is a part of you that needs healing. To recognize an enemy, question your assumptions and biases. The hidden enemy is concealed behind the mask of complacency. Self-awareness is the light that reveals enemies lurking in the shadows. The enemy you refuse to confront remains your greatest obstacle. Understanding the enemy begins with understanding your own fears. The secret to recognition is to listen carefully to your inner dialogues. Enemies often reveal themselves when your ego feels threatened. The true enemy is the illusion of separateness from others. The key to unlocking the enemy's identity is quieting the mind. Inside every enemy is an opportunity for inner growth. The greatest secret is to see your enemy as a lesson, not a foe. Enemies are often the shadows cast by our unresolved pain. Recognizing the enemy requires patience and honest introspection. The hidden enemy is the voice of doubt that whispers within. To see clearly, you must first clear the fog of your prejudices. Enemies reveal themselves when you stop blaming others and look inward. The secret is to accept that your enemies are part of your human journey. The most profound recognition comes from accepting your own flaws. Enemies can serve as mirrors, showing us what we refuse to see. The true battle is within, and recognizing the enemy is the first step. When you understand your enemy, you free yourself from their power. The greatest insight is to see enemy and friend as two sides of the same coin. Recognize the enemy's hand in your suffering and reclaim your power. The secret to peace is to see your enemies as teachers in disguise. Enemies often hide where you least expect within your own mind. The path to recognizing your enemy is paved with self-compassion. The illusion of separateness creates the enemy's illusion. The enemy is often a projection of your unhealed wounds. Understanding the enemy begins with understanding your own fears. An enemy's true face appears when you look beyond appearances. The secret is to see the enemy as an aspect of your own shadow. The greatest recognition is realizing your enemy is part of your growth. Enemies are the teachers that challenge your deepest beliefs. The hidden enemy is often the voice of your doubts and insecurities. Knowing your enemy requires courage to face your inner darkness. The true enemy is the illusion of permanence in a world of change. To recognize your enemy, listen to the silence between your thoughts. Enemies are the catalysts for your spiritual awakening. The secret is to see beyond the surface and understand the deeper conflict. Your enemy's strength lies in your own ignorance. The most profound recognition comes when you see your enemy as a part of yourself. Enemies teach us what we need to learn about ourselves. The secret to recognition is embracing your own vulnerability. Enemies are often the reflections of our unacknowledged pain. The greatest enemy is the one we fail to understand and forgive. Recognize the enemy by its pattern in your life. The true challenge is to see your enemy with compassion, not fear. The hidden secret is that enemies are messengers of your transformation. Understanding the enemy is the key to inner peace. Enemies may appear as obstacles, but they are also opportunities for growth. The secret is to see the enemy as a part of your journey, not your demise. In recognizing your enemy, you uncover the truth of your own spirit. The greatest insight is that the enemy is often a teacher in disguise. Enemies reveal the parts of yourself you have yet to accept. The secret to peace is to see your enemies as catalysts for awakening. Your enemy is the reflection of your unresolved inner conflicts. The hidden secret is that enemies help you understand yourself better. To recognize an enemy, listen to the whispers of your inner doubts. Enemies are the shadows that illuminate your path to self-awareness. The true recognition is to see beyond the enemy's disguise. Enemies challenge us to grow stronger in our understanding and compassion. The secret lies in transforming enemies into allies through understanding. Recognize your enemy by observing where your peace is disturbed. The greatest secret is that enemies are opportunities to discover your own strength. Understanding your enemy begins with forgiving yourself first. Enemies teach us where we need to heal and grow. The hidden secret is that enemies can be the greatest teachers of love. To see your enemy is to see the mirror of your own potential. Enemies are the catalysts that push us toward our highest self. The secret is to find compassion for your enemies within your own heart. Recognize the enemy as part of your divine growth journey. The greatest insight is that enemies are reflections of your own unhealed wounds. In the recognition of enemies, we discover the path to inner liberation. The true enemy often wears the mask of familiarity, disguising the challenge as comfort. Confronting your enemy begins with the courage to face the parts of yourself you hide. An enemy's true power lies in the way they mirror your unspoken fears. Recognizing an enemy requires seeing beyond their actions to their underlying motives. The most subtle enemies are those that whisper doubts in the silence of your mind. Understanding your enemy is an act of inner honesty that dissolves illusion. The enemy may be the shadow that your consciousness refuses to acknowledge. To recognize an enemy, listen not only to their words, but to the vibration of your own heart. An external enemy is often a reflection of internal conflict waiting to be resolved. The secret to perceiving your enemy is to cultivate detachment from your ego's reactions. Enemies often serve as catalysts, pushing us to discover strengths we didn't know we possessed. The true recognition of an enemy awakens compassion within the deepest parts of your being. Your enemy's greatest strength is in their ability to evoke growth through adversity. Seeing your enemy clearly requires the stillness to observe without judgment. The hidden enemy is the one that lives in the corners of your subconscious, unseen but felt. To recognize an enemy is to begin the journey of self-awareness and acceptance. Enemies challenge us to look inward and discover the unresolved wounds we carry. The secret to recognizing the enemy is to question the narratives we tell ourselves. An enemy's true nature is revealed in the way they test the limits of your patience. The greatest insight comes when you realize that enemies are teachers in disguise. The hidden enemy feeds on your doubts, growing stronger when you ignore your inner truth. To see your enemy as part of your growth is to transcend the illusion of separation. The enemy's presence is an invitation to confront your own vulnerabilities. Recognizing the enemy is the first step toward mastering your own inner landscape. Enemies often reveal what you fear most about yourself. The secret lies in understanding that enemies are opportunities for profound transformation. Your true enemy is the projection of unresolved inner conflicts onto the world. The more you understand your enemy, the less control they have over your peace. Enemies are often the shadows cast by unacknowledged parts of your soul. To recognize your enemy, cultivate patience, and observe your reactions with curiosity. The enemy's voice is often a distorted reflection of your own doubts and insecurities. The secret to perceiving the enemy is to quiet the mind enough to see clearly. Enemies remind us that our greatest battles are fought within. The secret is to see enemies as opportunities to cultivate patience and love. The greatest recognition comes when you see enemies as teachers, not foes. Recognizing your enemy is an act of awakening to the interconnectedness of all life. The secret lies in perceiving enemies as the dark and light within yourself. Your enemy's greatest gift is the awakening of compassion and wisdom. The path to recognizing your enemy is paved with humility and open-heartedness. Enemies are the silent teachers whispering truths you need to hear. The greatest secret is to see enemies as your greatest teachers in disguise. To recognize your enemy is to find the courage to look within with honesty. Enemies often hide where you least expect within your own mind and heart. The secret to recognizing an enemy is to see beyond the surface to the divine lesson beneath. Your enemy's role is to awaken the dormant strengths you possess. The greatest insight is that enemies are the gateways to your soul's deepest growth. Recognizing your enemy is the beginning of true inner freedom. The secret is to see every enemy as an opportunity for spiritual alchemy and awakening. Understanding your enemy begins with forgiving yourself for your own imperfections. The true challenge is to see enemies as divine messengers guiding your evolution. Enemies can be the mirror that reflects your most hidden fears and desires. To recognize your enemy, you must first recognize your own hunger for control. The greatest victory is to see the enemy as a part of your ongoing spiritual journey. Enemies thrive where there is resistance to change within your soul. The secret of recognizing an enemy is to remain rooted in compassion, not judgment. Your enemy often reveals the limits of your compassion and understanding. The hidden enemy is the one that causes unrest in your innermost sanctuary. To see your enemy clearly, you must shed the illusions that cloud your perception. Enemies are the catalysts that push us toward the enlightenment of inner truth. The secret to recognizing an enemy is to embrace vulnerability as strength. Your enemy's greatest power is in the way they compel you to look inward. Enemies are the dark seeds from which your greatest growth can sprout. The true recognition of an enemy leads to the liberation of your spirit. The enemy often tests your patience to teach you the art of surrender. Seeing your enemy as a part of yourself dissolves the illusion of separation. The greatest secret is to understand that enemies are internal reflections of unresolved fears. Enemies challenge you to find the compassion that lies beneath judgment. To recognize your enemy is to awaken to the interconnectedness of all things. The hidden enemy is the voice that keeps you from embracing your true self. Your enemy's role is to awaken dormant parts of your consciousness. The secret lies in perceiving enemies as opportunities to deepen your compassion. Understanding your enemy is a step toward mastering your emotional landscape. The enemy's presence can serve as a mirror to your own unexamined beliefs. The greatest insight is that enemies are often the guides that lead us inward. Enemies test the strength of your inner resolve and patience. To recognize your enemy is to recognize the battleground within your mind. The secret is to see enemies as mirrors reflecting your shadow self. Your enemy's challenge is an invitation to grow beyond your limitations. The true power lies in transforming enemies into allies through understanding. Enemies are the silent teachers of resilience and humility. Recognizing the enemy begins with the willingness to accept your own imperfections. The secret to perceiving enemies is to hold space for compassion, even in conflict. Enemies often reveal the parts of ourselves that we are most afraid to face. The greatest insight comes when you see enemies as integral to your evolution. The hidden enemy is the resistance to change that dwells within. To recognize your enemy is to awaken to the unity behind apparent separation. Enemies serve as mirrors for the unhealed parts of your soul. The secret is to see the enemy not as an obstacle, but as a catalyst for growth. Understanding your enemy is an act of inner awakening and liberation. Enemies challenge us to develop patience and clarity in chaos. The greatest recognition is acknowledging that enemies are part of your spiritual path. The secret lies in seeing enemies as opportunities to expand your compassion. Your enemy's power diminishes when you see them as a reflection of your own inner world. The true secret is to recognize that all adversaries are teachers in disguise. Enemies can be the sparks that ignite your deepest inner transformation. To recognize your enemy is to acknowledge the parts of yourself that you have avoided. The greatest insight is to see enemies as the teachers of humility and love. Enemies are the shadows that deepen your understanding of light. The secret to recognizing an enemy is to see beyond their role to the lesson they bring. Your enemy's challenge is an invitation to transcend your limitations. The path to inner peace begins with recognizing the enemy within. Enemies are the silent guides pushing you toward greater self-awareness. The greatest secret is to perceive enemies as opportunities for spiritual awakening. Recognizing your enemy is a step toward embracing your full humanity. The true power of recognizing an enemy lies in the compassion it awakens within you. Enemies serve as vital reminders that growth often begins in discomfort. The secret to recognizing your enemy is to see them as a part of your sacred journey. Your enemy's presence calls you to develop patience and understanding. The greatest insight is that enemies are the catalysts for your inner evolution. To recognize your enemy is to recognize the divine within all conflict. Enemies challenge you to deepen your understanding of yourself and others.